Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of UVCE Chronicles. Today with us we have Nagesh Basavanahalli. He graduated from UVC in 1988 from the Mechanical Engineering Department, and today he is the Vice Chairman of Greaves Cotton, large conglomerate. Sir, we like to start our episodes with an introduction from the guest himself. Can you please introduce yourself?
Good morning and greetings to all of your viewers, Abhishek. Thank you to the UVC Graduates Association for initiating this podcast. Um, when you look at maybe a brief background, so I would say the early education at UVC, followed by studies at the University of Texas and then at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. Good long innings working with the Detroit auto industry, initially in Michigan, right? Working on several programs leading up to across functions. Then coming back to the regions in Asia to work on emerging markets like India, China, and Eastern Europe, and was very fortunate post the financial crisis to be back in the region. And Since then have been working in the region. So in summary, uh, Western education, Western management studies combined with the Eastern value system, working with promoter companies, working with private equity led companies as well as listed companies. So I think that's been my journey at the outset. And it all started at UVC.
Right. So my next question is, do you have any memorable moments from your college days that you would like to share?
Oh, I'm pretty sure several, right? I mean, if you recall the canteen during those days, we used to have the canteen in a particular area of the central quadrangle, and there was an old library, and with where all of us would congregate during the days, right? I mean, where we would kind of look ahead as to some of the things we all wanted to do, right? And here we are. And then a few years ago, I think UVC Association had done the 5K, and a lot of us got back there again. And it was a great going back to that quadrangle, going back to that campus. And I do know that the campus is undergoing renovation right now, but it's looking good. I've seen some of the earlier versions of that. No, it's all but fond memories of our formative years that happened right there at UVC, and the friendships and the bonds that you create over a period of time. Yeah.
That's very nice, sir. So you went to the United States in the 80s. And so, like, can you tell us how was your experience back in the day, and how were you able to find your first job? And how is it different from what we see today? Like, how's the market? Or like like from a difficulty level, how is it finding your first job there?
Yeah. If you look at it, right, education in the US, going to the UT system, right? And then I end up after my master's, where I was fortunate enough to kind of graduate with a graduate scholarship. Ended up in Michigan, where the auto industry was just getting into composites at that time, right? And I had majored in composites, and a lot of the at that time it was the CAE, or the computer aided engineering at that time, as it's called, right? And so when you look at it, I think getting into the formative phase in the 90s, it was really in the 90s, early 90s, when Chrysler was my first account that I got in. Worked through, and that was actually my first job, right? Through a consulting company that I was able to get in. There was a recession at that time, but I think it's clearly, when you look at it, I think going to a different country, uh, learning and learning to adapt. So my only message is that I would take away is it teaches you a lot of life skills. It teaches you a lot about adaptability. It teaches you all about dealing with multi geographies, multicultural issues. But at the end of the day, be flexible, be nimble, and adaptable, and I think the rest is going to take care of itself. So it was a great learning experience. And was it tough? Yeah, it was tough at that time because all of us had to find our ways. But looking back, that was a phenomenal journey of learning personally and professionally, right? And which kind of really got me into Chrysler, and which was, of course, where I spent a long portion of my time. Yeah. So,
Nice. So after, so you spent like around more than 15 years in the US building your career there. So after that, you decided to come back to India. So can you walk us through that decision and how you were able to make that decision?
yeah. So I think after my master's in engineering, I ended up also getting a MBA from the University of Chicago. And the early years were all the formative years, and I would encourage that to for people to think through their own career plan. It was going through the ranks in a big company at that time, Chrysler, which later on became Daimler Chrysler because we merged with Daimler Benz, right? Was through engineering, manufacturing, strategy. I was in the corporate CEO's strategy office, and then marketing and running a full-fledged vehicle program. Right, the last program that I ran was a significant, very big program. Uh, at that time, so this program, by the way, was over 3 continents, multiple plants, running the entire program. And I came back to the region because post the financial crisis, there was a lot of opportunity emerging in the Asia Pacific region, right? So I was fortunate enough, got an opportunity to build what we called the emerging market offices in India, China, and Eastern Europe. So, which gave me an opportunity to really work on the three hot emerging markets at that time. So, my time really post the financial crisis was back in Asia and spend a good amount of time between Shanghai, Chennai, India, and Budapest, but mostly between Shanghai and Chennai, and the amazing growth that China saw, right? When you look at the time period, both in the Chinese economy as well as the Chinese auto industry, having bringing those technologies and having those technologies applicate to the local markets with local requirements, which meant in India we call it the total cost of ownership. We call it the unit economics needs to be stronger, right, etc., etc. So very fortunate to have worked with multiple joint ventures both in China and India, and also very fortunate to have worked with multiple cultures. So I had teams across uh, China, which is Shanghai, India, Chennai, and Pune, Detroit, Michigan, as well as in Austria and Budapest. So the advantage of that is working with global teams, getting the best out of the global teams, working across time zones. And this was all, of course, between 2008 to 2012. And that was, I thought, a phenomenal learning experience, and where the ability to create value, not just for the company, but also for the people who were there in terms of their personal growth and their ability to move the competency value chain. In fact, we've seen people who joined us as engineers and ended up running this office there in one of these places, etc., etc. Right? Because they rotated between one market to the other market, one gained competencies during the process, and to see some of this blossom over a period of time was, I thought, phenomenal. The people part, the cultural part, in addition to, of course, the business part, was, I think, one of the biggest learnings for me.
Right. So right now you are the vice chairman of Greaves Cotton. So can you tell us what Greaves Cotton does and what does a day in your life look like? What sort of challenges do you deal with on a daily
Yeah,
basis?
Yeah, like you said, after a long stint in MNCs, right, almost over 20 years, I did a small stint with a private equity portfolio company, right, and then ended up coming into Greaves Cotton, which is a legacy listed company. I mean, two Britishers, Mr. Greaves and Mr. Cotton, started this company more than 160 years old, right? So the challenge here when I got here was, to me, was very clear. We are in the middle of one of the deepest technology disruptions mankind has ever seen, especially when you look at mobility, right? About 100 years ago, the horse driven carriages moved away and then automobiles came in. To me, we are in the middle of another such disruption with sustainability, electric vehicles, alternative technologies coming in, right? So to me, this was a great opportunity to reinvent the company. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of this. So a lot of my time was spent on the transitioning or the transformation of the company over a period of time, right? So where are we? We went from a single product, single fuel, single customer company to now multiple revenues, right? We are into what do we do? We are into mobility business, so we move people and we move cargo. We do engines, automobile engines. We do non-auto engines. So our automobile engines, for example, goes into the last mile mobility ecosystem, the three-wheelers and the four-wheelers, right? Small four-wheelers and almost all the three-wheelers. Our non-auto engines go into gensets, defense equipments, construction equipment, farm equipment, right, etc., etc. So that's the engines. Then we are also into motion control equipment, and where we drive motion. So it's the cables, actuators, sensors for heavy trucks, buses, off-highway construction, marine equipment, right? So that's one of our key part of the business, which is really the engineering part of the business. Then we are also into retail, where we do multi-brand sales and service and spares through our pan-India network. Then we're also into electric vehicles. We do two-wheeler and three-wheeler under the brand name of Ampere and under the brand name of Greaves, right? We were one of the earlier movers into two-wheeler and three-wheeler electric vehicles. Then we have, so that's the third vertical. The fourth vertical that we have is fintech, where we do, it's an NBFC or it's a financing business. We do two-wheeler electric vehicle financing, where we look at an asset life of a battery and we look at how a particular customer uses a battery, what would be the residual value, what would be a potential buyback. So we basically are in the financing business, right? For the top six, seven automakers in that space. And it's a very exciting fintech startup. And then we're also in the services business, where we do engineering services, high-end engineering services for a lot of the global auto majors, right? We got about 400 plus engineers doing that. That's again another startup, right? So it's a good blend of three mature businesses and two startups. And very fortunate to work with a great bunch of teams led by CEO for each vertical, and a great bunch of colleagues, and transitioning this company from a legacy 160-year-old company to a forward-looking, multi-revenue, multi-competency, because we also moved from mechanical diesel engine company to a mechatronics, electronics, sensors, and software, given the electric vehicle exposure that we have, right? And retail and financing. So that's kind of what keeps me busy.
Right. That was a nice overview of Greaves Cotton. Uh, so you had a illustrious career in corporate leadership, particularly. So let's say, what is your message for students who right now start their corporate career as engineers, and then they are looking to build their career in corporate leadership in the future? So how was that transition for you like, and what's your message to UVCE students who are looking to do the same?
Yeah, I think the one message is it's a great time if you're graduating as a student. In fact, uh, I keep reflecting. While we were very fortunate and we learned across geographies, across businesses, across competencies, but I would say the pace of change has changed. The disruption, like I touched upon earlier, we are in one of the deepest technology disruption, and it's all happening at a very rapid pace now with the advent of AI and of course the in the mobility industry, the technology changes that are happening, right? It's an amazing time, and also the business model changes, right? The way we do businesses through with business model changes. So my suggestion to people who are graduating today would be a couple of different areas. One would be look at future ready skilling, right? Engineering is no longer just technical, it's also about adaptability, innovation, and problem solving in a very, very rapidly changing world. Focus on skilling and continuous learning, right? Lifelong learning. I think that's one thing. So clearly, skilling is one point. The other point that I would also talk about is industry partnerships and opportunities. Collaborate with the industry, look for internships, co-op programs where you can get some real world experience, especially the cross functional experience. No longer is the technology where it's only electronics or it's only mechanical or it's only software, right? It all comes together. The interdisciplinary approach where you're going and solving real world problems in a real world project. I think I would strongly encourage that, right? Even when you're in school looking for internships, please do that. Then probably what I touched upon earlier, the third point will be the disruption and the innovation. Uh, Technologies like electric vehicles, of course, now it's autonomous vehicles, AI, of course, now coming in. Be curious, be proactive, learn, think beyond borders, right? I mean, because at the end of the day, technology can come from anywhere, right? I mean, and then when you look at the next point will probably be the role of mentors, especially when you start in the universities and then you graduate into early jobs, right? Look at potentially mentors and also resources like, say, a tech incubator. A lot of the universities these days have tech incubation centers, or companies have that, right? So seek mentorship, and it's to me, in summary, it's the greatest time to be a student or coming out of graduating into the marketplace. Don't get overawed by the amount of change. Embrace change, right? There is unprecedented opportunities if you have an open mind. This is a golden era, and the demand for this will continue. Stay curious, stay resilient, stay hungry, and I think the world is your
Yeah,
oyster.
that's nice to hear.
So much
Uh,
opportunities.
so you're the leader of a big corporation, right?
Yeah.
And then you've been a leader at many corporations. So when you want to steer the org in a certain direction, and you want to align the org in a certain direction and bring about some big change, so how do you make sure that your message as a leader is communicated very clearly down to the last level? So like, is there some inertia involved in moving the whole organization in a certain direction?
No, I think that's an important question. It comes down to communication, right? One of the biggest role of a leader is to communicate. First of all, to set the vision, and in whatever geography, and I've seen this across geographies, right? Whether it's the West or here, doesn't really matter. Set a compelling vision, set a roadmap, and then more importantly, communicate, communicate, communicate. In any organization, and I've seen this across mature industries, I've also seen it across startups to a lesser extent, but it is there. How do you break the initial? I always believe in any change exercise, there are people who are going to embrace, they're fast learners or fast adopters. There are people who are going to wait, and some people in between. So, how do you communicate? How do you uh, convince people and make sure that you can bring the people along, I think is critical. To embrace some of the early adopters, make them champions, and make sure that you're not alone in this process. You're bringing more people into the fold and communicating all the level down, and ensuring that you walk the talk, because I think it's very important when a leader says something, right? Walking that talk and making sure that every step of the way, and it's Murphy's law, sometimes things do change. You may have to pivot, go back and talk again. So at every step of the way, being transparent, being humble, because in this day and age, uh, there is no one person who knows it all. It's the collective wisdom of the teams. It's the collective brain power. And also technologies are changing. So how do you adapt to it? How do you pivot? How do you communicate? How do you recommunicate? And at the end of the day, how do you carry the team? To me, those are
That's
some
an
pointers that
interesting
I would look for.
insight. I think we're approaching the end of the podcast. So, like, what's your message to our listeners,
So
UVCE
I think,
students?
yes, for UVC students, I think, like I said, it's one of the greatest time to be coming out as a student. There are unprecedented opportunities. Embrace change. Stay curious. Stay resilient, and believe in your ability to to make an impact to society. I believe each one of you has an opportunity to go make an impact.
Awesome.
So go
Yeah, I think
change the
that's
world.
pretty much it. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for taking out your time to be here with us. So, yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Abhishek. Thanks, Adrian.
Just a reminder, we are having the same 5K run this year also.
Oh,
This
you do?
time,
When?
yes, on March 16th.
Oh,
March
wonderful.
16th.
Okay.
It's branded the Proud UEC and Run.